Hello everyone, it's the storyteller here. I've prepared something slow, eerie, and sleep-friendly for you tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Are you drifting off already, or still wide awake? My brain through your brain was an optimist, and so, naturally, was the thing that lived in her brain. She awoke one Tuesday morning to discover the change. At first, it was merely a mental echo, barely perceptible. Two indistinguishable minds, one off by a fraction of a second. For Katie's every thought, there was an echo, trailing just behind. Over the day, the new brain drifted further out of sync, and soon she could hear its thoughts, almost identical to hers, but distinct. Eventually, they started talking. "Who are you?" Katie asked. "Katie Singleton," the voice said from inside her head. "That's me." "You're new in there." "I guess so," the voice said. "Sorry." "Don't be sorry." Katie was an over-apologizer too. "What should I call you?" "It's hard to get past Katie," the voice said. "How about Princess Penelope?" Katie asked. It was the name she'd given her imaginary friend when she was an 8-year-old princess junkie. Princess Penelope had filled a void. Playmate, partner in mischief. The sister she never had. The voice was as thrilled as Katie was. It remembered the same childhood. "I love it," she said. "I feel so fabulous. I'm Princess Penelope." Katie wondered what her therapist would have to say about all this, but decided to just go with it. It was nice to have someone like-minded to talk to. They quizzed each other as Katie waited for the morning train, phone held to her ear so onlookers would think there was a real person on the other end of the conversation. "Favorite color?" Princess Penelope asked. "Turquoise," they said together. "Turquoise." "Movie?" Katie asked. "Eternal Sunshine," they replied simultaneously. Eternal Sunshine. "Guilty pleasure food?" "Rocky Road," Katie said, as Princess Penelope replied, "Raw meat." Katie paused, puzzled. It was the first discordant note of their friendship. The train arrived, and they got on. Together, of course. "You seem distant," Noah said. It was Sunday morning. They were burrowed under covers, hiding from the daylight. "Just like eternal sunshine," Princess Penelope noted. Katie had thought the same thing. She smiled. It was like having a sister, a twin. Noah waited for a response. "See?" he said. "You're somewhere else." Katie had felt disconnected from Noah well before the appearance of her invisible friend. Their relationship was stagnant, all unhealthy patterns. She pretended to laugh at his jokes. He feigned interest in her plans. "So, what is it?" He seemed more annoyed than concerned. When she moved to the city to be with him, everyone said that she was moving too fast, that it was a bad idea. In time, Katie realized that they were right. She and Noah didn't really know each other, didn't even like each other. "Did you meet someone?" She traced the line of his jaw with her index finger. Gently. "Can't we just be quiet together?" she asked. Noah sighed, but pulled her close anyway. I'd love for us to tell him, Princess Penelope said, but he'd never understand. At the market for dish soap, Katie became distracted by the meat aisle. She settled on a pound of ground chuck, leanest she could find, 98% fat-free. It made her feel less guilty about the purchase. It's okay, said Princess Penelope. You know, pregnant women also crave protein. Katie didn't see the relevance, but didn't argue. The woman at checkout eyed her suspiciously. Katie wondered if there was something in their demeanor that called attention to them. Are our eyes twitching? Katie asked Princess Penelope aloud. Excuse me? The woman behind the counter responded. Katie quickly took her bag and went to the alley out back. By the dumpsters, she tore through the plastic wrap and pulled out handfuls of ground beef, squished it between her hands, into her mouth. Her teeth released saturated blood from spongy tissue to drip down her throat. Princess Penelope almost cried inside her, and Katie felt sustained in a way that was new to her, supercharged. Oh, God. She buried her face in the package of meat, gobbling like a starved mutt, sucking down every stray drop of juice until her tongue lapped against the styrofoam backing. Oh, God. What are you? Katie asked. Noah slept in the bedroom. They'd barely spoken that evening. When she came in from work, he told her she looked sick. It was true. She'd examined herself in the bathroom mirror, cheeks hollowed from lost weight, bags under her eyes, dark as bruises, thinning hair, chapped lips, sores. Still, his words hurt her feelings. Princess Penelope's, too. Now Katie sat on the couch, streaming shows she'd already seen. A shield of noise so Noah wouldn't hear her talking. I don't know, Princess Penelope answered. A figment of my imagination? Some part of my brain? I don't think so, Princess Penelope said. I exist. I'm not a stray thought, or a ghost, or anything like that. But what do you look like? I can't tell. I only see my brain. Through your brain, if that makes sense. It does, Katie said. I think there's something. Something you saw, or maybe read. A clue. I'm going to look. Princess Penelope could find memories Katie had lost. It was a wonderful secret shared between them. Her internal friend could call up, with perfect clarity, forgotten birthday parties, replay, word for word, conversations with friends who'd moved away, recover romantic feelings for Noah from those blissful first months when he'd been her lifeline in an unfriendly new city, rescue her mother's smile when she'd been happy, her father's when he'd been alive. Let me know if you figure it out, Katie said. Princess Penelope went quiet while she searched, and Katie felt lonelier than ever. Shows replayed in front of her, and she didn't bother clicking yes when the still watching prompt appeared. She fell asleep, sitting up. No transition, Her brain just clicked off like a light. "Wake up," Princess Penelope said. Katie opened her eyes. She stood in the bedroom, facing a wall. "What's going on?" she asked. "Don't be mad," Princess Penelope said. "What happened?" Katie willed herself to turn from the wall and realized that she couldn't. Princess Penelope was in control. "I won't be mad," Katie said. "Just show me." "In a minute," Princess Penelope said through their mouth. Now she was the one using it. "I realized what it was. You saw a video in high school, science class. The zombie wasp. It played in their head. National Geographic. Wasp larvae take over a caterpillar while feeding on it from the inside, directing it to gorge itself until they're ready to eat their way out." "You're a wasp?" Katie asked. "Something smaller, I think," Princess Penelope said. "But the same idea. Some kind of bug, maybe." "A bug?" Crawling around inside her skull. It was too unsettling. Like an itch you could never hope to scratch. "I know," said Princess Penelope. "It's icky." Again, Katie tried to turn her head. Nothing. The muscles of her body were completely disconnected from her thoughts. "Show me what happened," Katie pleaded. Their head tilted down, and Katie saw their hands, covered to elbows in blood. The rest of it. "Please." They turned from the wall, and Katie saw it. Bedspread spattered red. Hammer slathered in gristle. Flesh and bone chips. Tools. Kitchen utensils. Noah disassembled. Chest slashed. Innards strewn. Organs in a pile. Some half-eaten. Sightless eyes staring. Head cracked open. Skull emptied. "I realized what I was really craving," Princess Penelope said. "I didn't want to wake you, but it was delicious. You have no idea." Katie saw everything. Her degraded face in the mirror. Aches all over. New ones every day. The way the light from the bedside lamp now gave her headaches. That sour smell she didn't recognize on her own breath. "I'm the caterpillar." "I think so, Katie," Princess Penelope said with real sympathy. "But I'll go on. Don't know if it helps, but your memories will live in me." Katie felt herself cry, but no tears came. She imagined them falling inwardly, pooling in her steadily shrinking chamber within the brain that had once been hers. "I'm so sorry, sweetie. Let's get ice cream." Rocky Road? It was a nice thought. Princess Penelope knew her so well. Witchetty. Grub servings. 7. Preparation. Time. Varies based on resistance of ingredients. Ingredients. 1. Eye of newt. 1 toe of frog. 150 grams wool of bat. 1 tongue of dog. 10 scales of dragon. A pinch of dead man's blood. A drop of a virgin's tear. 1 swollen, pus-filled, witchetty grub for flavor. Preparation. A. Acquire pre-selected ingredients from their natural habitats. Successful extraction requires careful attention to prevent accidental damage. 1. Newt. Net the Newt in a crumbling inner-city neighborhood. Still in his teens, the Newt is most often found in the company of the local drug-dealing street gang he aspires to be part of. His watchful eyes make him a valuable resource. His fresh-faced appearance keeps him discreet. Optimal time to secure is while he keeps watch for the law and rival gang members outside a dilapidated apartment complex, casting furtive glances into alleys. His attention focused on the addicts and intimidating shadows that wander and lurk there. 2. Frog. Fetch the frog. At the edge of an abandoned industrial rooftop on the outskirts of the city. Her athleticism and powerful 20-something-year-old legs have made her a viral sensation, courtesy of elaborate, self-recorded parkour videos in which she scales buildings, leaps between rooftops, and climbs towering structures. The tattooed, shaven-head frog is at her most vulnerable while occupied with setting up her camera gear to record, having practiced her jumps, tested the winds, and psyched herself up for a stunt. 3. Bat. Bag the bat in the darkness and privacy of her lavish bedroom, whilst she slumbers in the soothing shawl of night. Her golden locks, the envy of all at her Ivy League university, will be glowing around her head like a halo on a Hungarian goose-down pillow, while she dreams of fame and stardom as a singer. Take care to wrap the bat's hair neatly around her head 3 times before removing her from her covers and spiriting her away through the unlatched window of her family's Haven Heights home. 4. Dog. Drag the dog from the smoking hut at the rear of a downtown comedy hall, where he smokes alone after a rough set. An up-and-coming stand-up comedian, his wit and sharp tongue are capable of cutting down hecklers with cruel precision. With thick skin but flimsy material, the dog can be secured when the night sighs with disappointment. His smartest punchlines of the evening, the edgy, heckler-baiting insults fresh on his lips. Unalert, his mind preoccupied with feelings of inadequacy, he will prove easy to batter and snare. 5. Dragon. Extract the dragon from the dressing room of a seedy adult film studio, where she sits before a mirror, her reflection betraying the exhaustion in her eyes. Once a promising young woman, the dragon is trapped in the heartless world she was forced into by debt and destitution, performing for cameras and men. As she waits to be recalled to set, white powder residue under her nose, flawless skin glistening under harsh lights, she can be subdued with a chloroform-soaked rag. 6. Dead man and virgin. The dead man and the virgin can be obtained together from the dead man's car as it idles at the edge of a cliff overlooking the bay. The dead man will be fresh from a strenuous workout, basking in the admiration of the Virgin, a pleasant distraction. The infatuated Virgin, surprised to have secured a popular male's attention, is keen to impress for validation. His cockiness and her insecurity are the perfect combination of toxicity, making them vital ingredients for the pot. As the Virgin is coerced to take things to the next stage, anesthetic gas introduced to the vehicle through its exhaust pipe will render them ripe for the picking. 7. Witchetty grub. Remove from the stockpile in the larder, as previously instructed to prepare. B. Once acquired, transport ingredients to cellar and confine. Take care to label correctly. Wrong identification will result in incorrect ingredients introduced to the pot, spoiling the potency of the broth. C. Inflict sufficient emotional trauma over the course of 24 hours to ensure ingredients are primed. Fear and confusion should be present before proceeding. Screams, pleas for mercy, and despair are key to achieving optimal tenderness. Cooking instructions. Step 1. Eye of newt. Prep. Approach the newt chained in a corner, his fearful blue irised eyes wide. His youthful terror and questioning of the rebellious attitude that led to him falling in with the wrong crowd when he could have stayed home with parents who offered love and tried to teach him right from wrong will serve as a solid base flavor. Marinate. Let him feel the knife's serrated touch against his cheek, heightening his fear and emptying his bladder. Remain silent as you peer into his soul and exhale fetid breath onto his face. Smirk as you move the tip of the blade to the swollen, tear-infused bag beneath his left eye and start to shimmy it in. Allow the newt to scream as you pierce the eyeball, making your black, crooked teeth the last thing it sees. Harvest. Extract the eye swiftly, ensuring it stays moist. Sever the optic nerve with teeth and drop the excavated eyeball into the cauldron of bubbling broth, allowing its partner to watch from the head it remains housed in. Step 2. Toe of frog. Prep. Open the door to the cage of the naked frog, whose legs twitch as they struggle against their restraints. Her death-defying leaps and infinite recklessness have been reduced to paralysis and nervous kicks. This now caged force of once unstoppable urban adventure will add a tangy zest to the mix. Marinate. Trace a wart-covered finger along the side of a foot, then over each one of her toes, drawing out a series of gasps. Let her realize that no jump can save her as she shirks away. Grab the foot firmly and place the blade against its biggest toe, making it quiver and curl. Watch the frog's face contort and savor her cries as the knife digs deep into the skin. Harvest. Sever the toe at the joint. Allow it to twitch in your fingers as she cries in pain. Eyes locked on the almost insignificant but oh so important digit that aids with her balance. Drop the wriggling toe into the cauldron, letting its spasms add ripples to the broth. Step 3. 150 of wool of bat prep. Release the bat from her crate and comb out her lustrous locks, tangled and matted from confinement. The scent of confusion and fear for her life is sickly sweet, but the odor of her wounded pride outweighs it. Even in captivity, the bat's thoughts fixate on her unwashed hair, the long, golden strands that are the source of her appetizing appearance. Marinate. Run fingers through hair, untangling strands with care and soothing the bat with gentle shushes. Admire its luster. Appreciate its silky, smooth feel. Let your withered flesh tingle under its softness. Watch her grimace through tears, trying to coax out some mercy. Then grip a handful of hair and yank back her head. Lift the shears and slide their rusted edges either side of the strands, savoring the scream that slips forth with the snip. Harvest. Shear off 10 handfuls of finest silken hair and place on weighing scales until 150 grams of the bat's identity are harvested. Let her sob uncontrollably as she watches her beauty diminish, mourning the loss of her hair like the frog mourns her toe. Toss the locks into the cauldron and stir, imbuing the soup with a peppery nuance. Step 4. Tongue of dog. Prep. Leave the dog tied to his chair, blindfold in place, but remove the gag from his mouth. His trademark smirk will be absent, replaced with the babbling pleas that come from an understanding that no witty repartee can save him. Allow him to lick his dry lips one last time, moistening them with the mock-yielding lubrication that gives them their tartness. Marinate. Let the dog wield his words like weapons, shouting, cursing, trying to bargain with the devil. Stand quietly as he struggles against his restraints, powerless in the face of unyielding malice. When his adrenaline-fueled vitriol falters, take his chin in a vice-like grip and tug his tongue from his mouth. Slide the shears over the muscle and ease them together. Harvest. Slice through the tongue, severing it cleanly at the base. Watch crimson blood spurt forth, filling the dog's mouth and coating his chin. The ragged stump will quiver as he chokes, his sharp tongue reduced to a useless lump. Toss the fleshy piece into the broth, seasoning it with the sourness of insults. Step 5. 10 scales of dragon. Prep. Remove the hood from the head of the dragon, where she lies strapped to a metal gurney. Dark circles under her eyes mar her otherwise flawless skin and the exotic looks that brought her success. Her fingers tremble from the withdrawal, gnawing at her veins, while the makeup caked on her face fails to conceal the bitterness that came from a life she never wanted. Bitterness that will add complexity to the brew. Marinate. Stand behind the dragon and caress her cheeks, pressing into plump, pillowy skin. Feel her body freeze as your nails scratch the surface. Hear her breathing quicken as she wonders what new hell is about to unfold. No words will leave her lips, even when the razor is brought into view and left to hover over her nose. But the flicker of horror in her eyes will betray her terror. Bring the blade down and slice through her supple cheek like butter. Harvest. Carve 5 1-3C strips of skin from each cheek. As her flesh peels away, suppressed screams will at last fill the cellar, and blood will soften the dried-up makeup on her face. Drop each strip into the cauldron, watching as they sink into the broth, the beauty that defined her, infusing the mixture with a savory depth. Step 6. A pinch of dead man's blood. Prep. Circle the dead man as he dangles from a meat hook, kicking and thrashing. This man, this bully, this self-obsessed, so-called alpha male who has spent his life stepping on others, viewing women as objects and treating people as conquests, will add an acrid taste to the blend, which, when balanced with the richness of the other ingredients, will create something truly sensational. Marinate. Lunge from the front and use shears to cut his shirt from waist to neck. Expose chiseled abs and toned chest, then replace shears with dagger and start to stab. Apply slight pressure at first, tenderizing the flesh with shallow punctures, enough to extract delicate beads of blood. The dead man's bravado will crumble as the jabs become deeper. Wait for the realization that he cannot escape to appear in his eyes. Then draw the dagger back and plunge it with full force into his chest. Harvest. Guide the blade through ribs into the dead man's heart. Watch the fire in his eyes fade as his life-giving treacle spills out. With the dagger protruding from his chest, hold a tarnished teaspoon close to the wound. Wait for his last wheezing breath to rattle out, then catch a drop of syrup in the spoon, drizzling it into the cauldron to add pungency. Step 7. A drop of virgin's tear. Prep. Release the virgin from the cupboard under the stairs. Take her by the arm and drag her from the dark into the cellar. as her eyes adjust to the light. Let her witness the gruesome sight of her dead boyfriend, hanging from a hook, blood beneath him. Marvel at the way in which she mourns him and howls in torment. Her naivety and emotional dependency preventing her from seeing he is no loss. Her saved innocence promising a nectarous punch. Marinate, stand back, and let the scene unfold. Listen to the virgin's cries grow louder. Watch her collapse onto the cold, hard floor and crawl away. Witness her growing terror as her eyes go from eyeless newt to toeless frog, from hairless bat to tongueless dog, from red-faced dragon to dangling dead man, again then to you. Approach slowly, sponge in hand, and digia at her tear-soaked cheeks. Harvest. Allow the sponge to be saturated with untainted tears, rich in sorrow. Then leave the virgin to curl up in a ball, covering her ears, squeezing her eyes shut, crying as she tries to deny reality. Carefully squeeze the sponge out over the cauldron, letting her essence and purity drip into the broth, enriching it with subtle, candied sweetness. Step 8. Witchetty grub. Drop the withseti grub into the pot as a final garnish. Stir 6 times. Cover, then leave to ferment. Serving. Decant the concoction into a jar. Screw on a rubber teat, sealing in its rich, aromatic flavor. Suck a single drop into your mouth. Feel your body shudder as the magic flows through it, transforming your hair and your skin, restoring your youth. Indulge a fit of cackling, your voice echoing through the chamber. Then offer a word of gratitude as you depart. Optional flourish. Before leaving, kiss a spell-cast crystal and roll it to the center of the floor. In time, when the ingredients feel brave enough to assist one another, they will turn their traumatized gaze upon it, each seeing in it the future they have been spared. The newt, murdered by his gang after failing as a lookout during a hit. The frog, falling to her death as a result of an overly ambitious jump. The bat, caught in a house fire, her hair igniting to prevent her escape. The dog, stabbed by a heckler after an insult goes too far. The dragon, overdosing to escape the life her looks keep her trapped in. The virgin, dying at the hands of the abusive dead man. Extract from Witchetty Grub, Edition 7. Recipes for preservation. Broths using humane ingredients and ethical processing methods. I am the silence between heartbeats. I'm talking to you. Yes, you. Don't pretend you didn't notice. That creak that whispers you tried to dismiss as nothing. It wasn't. I've been watching, listening. You've felt it, haven't you? That cold shiver crawling down your spine when you thought you were alone, when you told yourself the darkness was empty. But it's not, and neither am I. You're not scared? Oh, you will be. Do you know what bones sound like when they break? It's not the quick snap you're thinking of. No, it's much worse than that. It starts with a groan, like a branch struggling under heavy snow. Then comes the splinter, slowly, jagged. Bones are splitting apart, and fibers are tearing like meat from the bone. Have you ever heard someone scream while their bones are being shattered inside them? No? That's the sound I made before I became this. It wasn't quick. No, the first bone that cracked, it was my hand. I remember feeling the skin tear and muscles snapping like twine stretched to the breaking point. Then, the grinding started. Oh, you don't know the horror of that sound. Teeth on glass, nerves ripped apart, a shriek of agony trapped in your skull. My ribs didn't just break. They crushed and caved in, one by one, under the weight of the water. Each crack echoed in my ears as the cold flooded my lungs. The air became water, and sweet oxygen traded for salty, thick brine, choking me. Can you imagine it? You will. Picture your fingers bending, folding backward with a sickening crack. One by one, each digit twists until bone bursts through the skin like shards of glass. The agony isn't clean. It crawls up your nerves, searing, pulsing, until your vision blurs, and all you see is blood. Red. So much red. And then, when the pain becomes too much to bear, it doesn't stop. It never stops. I can feel your heartbeat now picking up. Faster. You're sitting there, reading this, telling yourself it's just a story, but I'm closer than you think. Close enough to taste the fear dripping off you like sweat. I could drag my nails across your throat right now and feel your skin split under the pressure. Do you think you're safe? Look at your hands. Go on. Look, did you feel that? The prickling under your skin, that's me. I'm crawling inside you, testing you, tasting you. I want to see how much terror your body can handle before it snaps. And when it does, I'll be there to savor it. I'm with you now. Oh, I know you feel it. That crawling sensation under your skin, the burning pressure building in your chest. You're trying to ignore it and breathe steady. But your breath is shallow, right? Because I'm inside your fear. I live in the spaces between heartbeats, in the blood rushing through your veins. Soon, I'll live with you. When the lights flicker, the air grows thick with rot, and the cold wraps around your bones. You'll know I'm there. I'll make sure you do. Don't look around. Stay still. Listen. The creak. Like something crawling in the walls. It wasn't the house settling. I've been waiting for you to notice me, waiting for you to let me in. You can't see me, not yet, but you can feel me. That smell, like something festering, rotting in the walls. It's stronger now, isn't it? That's because I'm closer than ever, and tonight, I want you to feel me fully. I want you to know what absolute terror is. What does fear taste like to you? Metallic, like blood in your mouth, thick and coppery, seeping from your gums. I know that sour, acrid taste is on your tongue right now. You keep swallowing, trying to push it down, but it clings to the back of your throat, doesn't it? You know something is wrong. Something is terrible. Breathe deeply. Go on. Do you feel your lungs expanding? Desperate for air? Picture them filling with water. Thick, cold, briny water crawls into your throat, clogging your airways and spilling down your chest until your lungs are swollen, heavy, and useless. You want to scream, but only bubbles rise, and they taste like salt and blood. You try to claw at your throat to free yourself from drowning, but your fingers break under the strain. Snap, crack. Your knuckles fold inward like brittle sticks. That was my death. And now, I want you to feel it. You're shaking now, aren't you? Your palms are slick with sweat, rubbing together to find warmth and friction. But there's none. There's only the cold. The deep, bone-deep cold, sinking in and gnawing at your flesh. That's me, wrapping around you, sliding under your skin. My hands, once warm, are now dead, frozen to the bone. If I touch you, I'll leave marks, black, festering bruises, and I already have. Do you feel it? The throbbing on your arm, like fingers pressing more profoundly and deeper until the skin splits? Don't look. It's already too late. Look in the mirror. Go on. See how your eyes have lost their light? How do they seem hollow, dark, and sunken? That's because I'm draining you, bit by bit. With every breath you take, and every second you spend reading this, I'm pulling you closer to me. Soon, when you look at your reflection, you won't be staring back. It will be me. Close your eyes. Hear that sound? The cracking, crawling, like insects gnawing through wood? That's what I feel inside you. Burrowing, eating through your nerves, tearing you apart from the inside, leaving nothing but rot and ruin. Do you think so? That burning in your chest, that pressure that's building, it's suffocating you, isn't it? That's what I want. Now imagine this. It's the middle of the night. You wake, but you can't move. Your limbs are frozen. You try to scream, but your voice is gone. You hear breathing, not yours. You can taste it on your lips, thick and sour, and then something touches your foot. Soft. A finger? It slides up your leg, leaving a trail of icy numbness that climbs higher. You can't move or scream. All you can do is feel it creeping up your skin, curling around your throat. That's how it started for me. I was awake. I felt it crawl into my lungs, deeper and deeper, until my breath was stolen. I thrashed, my nails splintering as I clawed at the walls, ripping the flesh from my fingers, blood pooling under my nails. But the dark was merciless. It wrapped around me, pulling me under and swallowing me whole. Do you feel it now? That tightness in your throat? Swallow. Does it feel harder? Like something's gripping your windpipe, slowly squeezing until all you can do is choke on the darkness. That's me. I'm inside you now. I'm watching you, watching your eyes flicker to the shadows, hoping nothing's there. But I am. I'm right behind you, inches away, staring at the back of your neck, so close I could reach out and dig my nails into your flesh. Feel the skin give way under the pressure. Feel the blood pulse beneath my grip. I could show you more. The way my fingers shattered as I clawed, desperate to escape. How my eyes bulged, veins throbbing, as the last breath was torn from my lungs. My flesh rotted and peeled away, leaving nothing but the cold, blackened bones beneath. You're not scared yet? You will be. Close your eyes. I'm going to show you what it feels like to die slowly, just like I did. Stay quiet, friend. Lila sank into the couch, the flickering glow of the TV screen illuminating the shadows that loomed the darkened room. She had chosen a silly rom-com, hoping to distract herself. But the air felt thick, almost suffocating. Every creak of the old house made her jump, and the shadows in the corners seemed to whisper her name in a language she couldn't understand. It was late, and her roommate Clara was working on her thesis upstairs. But Lila couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't the only ones in the home. An uneasy tension coiled in her stomach, forcing her to triple check behind each door, under the couch, and even peered behind the shoe rack, half expecting to find something or someone hiding within. She ducked below the kitchen counters, her fingers feeling for a butcher's knife. Her heart sank when she felt the empty spot in the knife rack. It was missing. The chill creeping up her spine told her that whatever was happening was more than just her imagination. She glanced toward the back door, where the moonlight shimmered through the glass panes, casting eerie reflections that danced on the walls. A sudden gust of wind rattled the bay window, sending a shiver through her. Something was off. With a tentative step, she approached the back door, feeling the cold metal handle beneath her palm. The moment she unlocked it, her phone buzzed on the coffee table. The sound startled her, and she snatched it up, her pulse quickening at the sight of Clara's name. "Did you hear that?" the message read. A cold dread settled over her, crawling beneath her skin as the unease that had settled over her intensified. What could Clara possibly be hearing? She typed back, "Hear what?" but hesitated, glancing down the hallway that led to the stairs. The dim light from the TV cast erratic shadows that flickered and danced. And for a fleeting moment, Lila thought she saw something move behind the curtains. Her breath hitched, a primal instinct warning her that she was not alone. Maybe it was just the movie messing with her mind, but the feeling of being watched pressed heavier on her chest. Another message chimed in. "I think someone's outside." Panic surged through Lila's veins, prickling her skin. She stood frozen for a moment, weighing her options. Should she check the back door or run upstairs to her roommate? Clara's words echoed in her mind. Why would she think someone was outside? How could she guess that? Why is she being so casual about it? "Are you sure?" Lila typed back, her fingers trembling. "Just stay quiet," Clara replied. "I'll call you when I'm sure." A shiver ran down Lila's spine. Her instincts screamed at her to call the police, but fear held her in place. The silence grew oppressive, and she could hear the faint sound of something dragging from above. Without thinking, she moved to the back door, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. As she reached for the handle, a scream erupted from upstairs, a raw, piercing wail that silenced the night. It was Clara's voice. Adrenaline propelled Lila forward as she bolted toward the staircase, her heart hammering in her chest. "Clara!" she yelled, bounding up the steps 2 at a time. The hallway stretched out before her, dark and foreboding, thick with an air of dread. "Clara!" she shouted again, panic clawing at her throat. The scream had stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that felt like a warning. When she reached Clara's door, her hand trembled as she tried to push it open. It was locked. Why was it locked? Lila fumbled for her spare key, forcing the door open. The room was empty, save for the dim glow of Clara's laptop on the desk. Papers were strewn about, books toppled over, and the window was wide open, allowing a chilling breeze to sweep through the room. Lila stepped inside, her heart racing. "Clara," Lila called softly, her voice just above a whisper. "Where are you?" Suddenly, she heard a soft rustling from the bathroom. Her breath caught, and fear settled like a stone in her stomach as she approached, each step feeling heavier than the last. She reached for the door, her mind racing with images of Clara being attacked. She hesitated, her hand hovering over the handle, glancing back at the open window that seemed to beckon her to escape. Then her phone buzzed again, illuminating the screen with another message from her roommate. "Don't come in." Lila's heart sank, and a sense of dread washed over her. The message was sent from Clara's phone, but something felt wrong. "Are you okay?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. The rustling from the bathroom stopped abruptly, replaced by a suffocating silence that wrapped around her like a shroud. Lila took a step back, cold sweat prickling her skin. She felt trapped. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but she couldn't leave Clara. With trembling hands, she yanked open the bathroom door. Clara stood there, her eyes wide-eyed and wild, blood staining her nightgown, the crimson liquid soaking into her hair like a macabre halo. In the bathtub, a body lay motionless, limbs grotesquely scattered like a puzzle, arms and legs discarded beside the sink. The young woman's lifeless eyes stared vacantly at the ceiling, unseeing. Lila could barely make out the limb hanging from Clara's hand, for in the other was a knife, glistening in the remnants of her victim. Lila froze, her mouth dry and her mind reeling. The air thickened with a metallic tang, and she could feel her lungs begging for air. "Clara," her voice cracked, trembling as violently as her body was. "What have you done?" Clara slowly turned her head, a strange, twisted smile creeping across her lips, glistening with the blood that stained her face. "You said you didn't hear anything," she said, her voice cold and deliberate. "You lied." "I didn't," Lila began, only to be cut off. "You lied," Clara repeated, her tone sharp, cutting through the air like the blade in her hand. "You need to stay quiet, friend, and I'll make sure you never lie again." The door behind Lila slammed shut, sealing her inside the suffocating darkness. Fear surged through her as Clara advanced, the knife glinting ominously in the dim light. "Clara, please." Lila's plea faded into a whimper, the weight of impending dread crushing her. Without warning, Clara lunged forward, the blade slicing through the air with a cruel precision. Pain exploded in Lila's mouth, and she gasped, trying to scream, but the sound was swallowed by the metallic taste of blood. As Clara withdrew the knife, Lila felt a sudden emptiness. Her tongue, her voice, her very essence slipped from her mouth and fell to the floor with a sickening thud. Clara's eyes gleamed with a wild delight as she leaned closer, whispering words that curled around Lila's mind like smoke. "Now you'll stay quiet," Clara said, her voice low and dripping with satisfaction. "No more lies, no more noise." The door behind Lila slammed shut, the weight of darkness closing in, silencing her voice and sealing her fate. The hour approaches, gold and silver thread shimmer in my candlelit chamber. The figures of 3 noblewomen standing beneath a garden tree in the tapestry opposite, feel as much part of me as the veins in my still, slender hands. One holds a bunch of flowers, one carries a basket of eggs, and the third stretches out her hand to a pelican. Symbol of motherhood, it is said the pelican will pluck its breast and feed the young on its own blood rather than see them starve. I can almost hear the mocking laughter of lives mercilessly cut short. In my dreams, the piercing cries of unquiet souls falsely accused. Grisly husks with popping eyes, whose contortions form a grotesque parody of life. Your time will come. We are waiting. The hour approaches, not if I keep standing. While the rest of my body crumbles, my ears hear well enough. In the early years, wigs lent majesty. Later, they covered the true extent of my hair loss. In my next dream, I enter a hall of mirrors, long forbidden in my palaces. Wigless and mask-free, I recoil at the gray tufts springing from a once noble crown. I'm dismayed by the sunken hollows that pass for cheeks, and my neck is a cavern of worms. I open my mouth to find stumps rattling in my jaw like beaten soldiers. My eyes, once glorious pools of gold brown, are blackened pits. I wake up yelling, and Cat is there to soothe my brow, as she did when I was a child. Yet Cat died years ago. You killed her with overwork. The hour approaches. Only last week, I was indulging in my favorite candies, and my neck was bedecked in a fine ruff with loops of hanging pearls. Since then, I've barely eaten, though my thirst is unquenchable. Knowing I no longer have the stomach for wine, my maids pour weak ale down my unprotesting throat. That way, I live longer. Pain and melancholy have been my bedfellows for so long. No amount of bloodletting of the body's humors can rid me of them. I must remain upright. I was once a tall, striking creature with auburn hair. Unfortunately, my womanly body was regarded as unfit to rule on account of its corruption, the result of Eve's fall from grace in the Garden of Eden. I had nightmares of a ghastly preacher shaking his fist at me and inveighing against the monstrous regiment of women whose ruling over men was deemed repugnant to nature. However, at the key moment, my imperfect flesh became wedded to the body politic. By some mysterious process, it rose above physical limitations and took on a perfect form. Early on, I learnt to suppress any sign of weakness and use my femininity as a weapon. Born under the sign of Virgo, I was married only to my people. As expressed in my clothing, I sacrificed self for their symbolic love. Over the years, this red-painted cochineal mouth has issued commands, witty rejoinders, sarcastic ripostes. When it suited me, occasional snippets of wisdom. These childlike lips had courtiers running to do my bidding, trembling lest they displeased me and lost their heads. Little by little, I emerged from feebleness, impressing statesmen, and learned men alike. On my progresses through the country, I was said to have the common touch, waiting for hours to catch a glimpse. Ordinary people were touched by my concern for their comfort and welfare. Admittedly, there was precious little to be had in some of the city's hovels. You put on a good show. But the hour approaches. Finally, my supreme moment came. The defeat of the Spanish Armada turned my country's fortunes around. After exhorting the men encamped at Tilbury to victory before they set off in their cannoned ships, I emerged as Gloriana. I may have had the body of a feeble woman, but proved I had the heart and stomach of a king. Perhaps triumph entrenched me, made me more like my father. Loved and feared in equal measures, he bestrode the court like a colossus. A rule which started full of promise grew tyrannical. People feared for their lives. Now you fear for yours. The hour approaches, not if I keep standing. You may wonder how I could love a man who in one foul swoop instigated the destruction of my mother when I was not yet 3. My first brush with death. Even now, I'm unsure whether it was love or fear that drove our relationship. I never spoke to anyone directly about my mother, least of all the king when he lived. My early sagacity may have saved me during my most perilous moments. During my sister Mary's reign, my very survival hung in the balance. I died many times in my mind then. The consummate player, I played for the highest stakes and won by a hair's breadth. Even when I succeeded to the throne, I rarely let my guard down. Those I've truly trusted have been few and far between. But if I outranked them all in terms of flair, capacity, and intellect, I didn't do it alone. I took advice from the best counselors in the land, namely my dear Cecil, who served me faithfully until he died a few years ago, and whose son now takes his place. Perhaps the older Cecil didn't always please me, but without him, the burden of politics presses heavily. The well of depression, which first opened when I lost Kat, my governess and dear friend, deepened. I miss her. Take those leeches away, and let me have some peace. Nay, none of it feels like winning now. There's nothing triumphant about lying swaddled in a heap of cushions, even if they are in Richmond Palace's private quarters. Our family often decamped here to escape the turmoil of state affairs. Yet this dreamscape of towers and turrets overlooking the river has become a glorified prison. A servant stokes the fire, keeping off the last of winter's chill before spring's sweet arrival, which I won't see. With each passing day, my ladies add more cushions, So when my legs buckle from the strain of standing for hours, no bones get broken. You need to rest and get some sleep, Your Majesty. Except to lie down is to face death. Your hour approaches. Ignoring the doctor's wheedling, I remain fixed as the northern star. He and Cecil work in tandem. The smooth politician who isn't a patch on his father, and the oily medic grown greedy on royal patronage. Between them, they will pluck the name of my successor from their childless queen's lips if it's the last thing they do. Of course, I should never have agreed to have the coronation ring removed from my finger to relieve the swelling. I'd not taken it off since my coronation all those years ago, and nothing has been right since. However, I'm adamant that my mother of pearl locket ring remains on my finger for as long as I breathe. What happens next is beyond my control. I trust the women who wait on me will honor my wishes. Only 2 weeks ago, I was able to cast the pain aside and demand my wardrobe mistress clothe me in a fine linen dress and put a ruff round my neck. Enduring the discomfort of hoop and bustle, my face was covered in a thick layer of white lead makeup to cover the pox I was left when I caught smallpox as a young queen. The daubing of my wrists in sweet perfume made me feel almost human. Now sunken in cushions, the chime of bells reaches across our fading fields. I catch the tail end of whispers, infuriated at not being able to hear precisely what's being said. I can no longer demand they tell me or suffer the consequences. The nightmare of that fortress rising above me is upon me again. At the time, the sight of the royal prison almost unhinged me, but a mistress of deception must survive such trials. My elder sister Mary was ruling the country with a rod of iron, and the stakes were kept busy dealing with dissenters. To be so fierce in her beliefs may have been my sister's undoing. When I first became queen, I refused to make windows into men's souls. So long as people confirmed to the Anglican religion carved out by my father, they had no need to fear. Yet in your reign, you've ordered more deaths than your sister. Your hour approaches. The very mention of the tower would make the most hardened traitor's bowels shrivel, especially with the threat of torture. As a member of royalty, I would not have to suffer the horrors of Wyatt and his supporters when their rebellion failed. Although I distanced myself from all plots to overthrow my sister, every failure put me in peril. With rumors and counter-rumors circulating of my complicity, I daily faced the threat of destruction. I vividly remember that journey to the tower, passing scenes of horror and desolation. Heads and body parts mounted on spikes at the city's gates displayed the consequence of treason. As we approached, I heard the blood-curdling roar of its lions and turned feverish. To be revisiting the place where my mother had spent her last days, and to have to endure interrogation, seemed beyond me. But I kept my resolve. Any consolation in being given pleasant rooms was short-lived when I discovered the only means of stretching my legs meant having to pass the site of my mother's scaffold. If it came to it, I'd planned on asking for a French sword rather than the cumbersome axe. My mother had made exactly that request before her execution, and then had to suffer the agonies of waiting for my father to grant her wish. Much later, I learnt there was talk of sparing her and allowing her to flee to a nunnery. When the king's love turned sour, he had punished her failure to produce a male heir by getting Cromwell, his clever and formidable politician, to accuse her of numerous acts of treason. They included witchcraft and adultery, including with her own brother. No woman's name was more besmirched. She had been called the king's whore before he made her queen. But she met her death with dignity, making a wise speech to the gathered crowd. In a stroke, she was dead, but not dishonored. I gleaned the details of my mother's final days, long after her death. I dimly recall seeing her as a child. I did not live with her, and when her deliveries of lovely clothes dried up, I sensed something was wrong. In the flickering candlelight, they have coaxed me to bed, where the dark night hovers waiting for my soul. I've always been surrounded by people wanting something. The country's most senior men wait here, watchdogs to a diminishing power. Even a queen cannot hold back death forever. The hour approaches. My physician presses my wrist and clears his throat. Your Majesty, there's the matter of the post-mortem? No cutting, but with great humility. It can be helpful to know the cause of illness for future understanding and inquiries. No. And, the issue of embalming? No. It is usual practice with royalty. No. Of course, Your Majesty. His shoulders slump. He will have nothing interesting to report for posterity. The Archbishop arrives carrying oils. Must speak. Alone. My voice cracks. Everyone to go. In the silence, the Archbishop reaches for my hand. I dreamed of Mary again, I whisper. Which one? Your sister? Or the other one? My cousin. She was the Queen of Scotland. I should never have signed the death warrant. I didn't mean it to be sent. It had to be, Your Majesty. She was complicit in the Babington plot. I tell you, my hand was forced. It was unseemly. I fear God will judge me harshly. Yet, while your cousin lived, you were in constant danger. She was your ultimate rival. But then the manner of her death. Arg. She was not felled straight away. I heard her dawn, ran out from under her dress, howling. And then they dipped his nose into her blood. Bitter tears form runnels in my makeup. To go the grave with such thoughts is abominable. What is done cannot be undone, Your Grace. But will I be pardoned for my sins? You will be pardoned and treated as a queen in heaven, as you are on earth. But his voice lacks conviction. Have you thought any more about the most pressing matter? The kiss of his lips to my hand is like the flutter of a bee's wings over a honey pot. They need to know. Who will it be? A vacant tear falls onto the pillow. I have no heirs, so it will have to be Mary's son, James. But I'm damned if they're getting it out of me till I'm ready. They plagued me to marry and produce an heir. Although no man ever pleased them, I played along with their schemes, kept them dangling while they sought out the best alliances. My maids were bribed to report the regularity of my monthly bleeds, but in the end, nothing could induce me. When it came to it, I couldn't allow a man to rule over me. Not even Dudley, who I almost loved. At least until our ardors dampened to the warmth of friendship. But how could I forget what happened to my mother when she married my father? And his love turned to hate. Or how my sister's husband deserted her and returned to Spain, leaving her bereft and childless. I played all proposed alliances off against one another, secretly resolved to remain single. No matter that the cushions have been removed. I request the assistance of my ladies to help me out of bed so I can see the tennis court from the window. I remember Dudley, long gone, playing hopelessly to amuse me. He was, however, a fine horseman, and we spent hours riding together. The only time I felt truly free. My chief counselor strides over, touches my shoulder. Your Majesty must go to bed. A knight and leader of the Privy Council he may be, but I will not abide such insolence from a whippersnapper. Little man, you do not use the word must to princes. Your father would not have spoken so. The truth is as bitter as gall. Knowing I must soon leave this life makes him presumptuous. England will have but one queen and no master. The roar of the lion is in my ears. At my coronation, I wore my mother's crown. It fitted me well, lying in bed, strangled by unspoken words. Their waxen faces loom, pressing for the name of my successor. Will it be James of Scotland, Your Grace? My mind flips back, and I'm riding in the barge along the Thames, heading towards the tower again. I keep telling myself I'm a passenger, not a prisoner, but my body has swollen. After my sister, I am the rightful heir to England's throne. My father restored my legitimacy at a grand ceremony in 1544. These men cannot get the better of me. I'm a queen in waiting, popular with the people. I cannot be harmed. Sickened by the boat's motion, I cry out, "Let us pull over so I may recover." The warehouses line the north bank, rising up like monsters from the deep. I've slept in many beds during my life's course, often with maids, occasionally alone, never with a man, though a number tried. The one here is appropriately boat-shaped and sumptuously draped with sea green curtains, composed of flesh, blood, and mottled bruises. I will the lungs beneath my chest to keep breathing. In and out, in and out. Mere mortal that I am, your procrastinating must end. The hour fast approaches. Jay. The name sticks like a craw in my throat. Did you hear that? The Archbishop asks breathlessly. She can't speak. In air now grown fetid, my finger draws a circle. She's making the shape of a crown. My lady of the bedchamber understands, as does Kat, my old governess, returned to help me in my final trial. Is it to be James, the King of Scotland? Cecil's voice, low and urgent, breaks through the gloom. She's nodding consent, the Archbishop says. She keeps fiddling with the locket. What's in it? Leave it. Kat covers my hand. No man dare argue. In such moments, women protect their own. The ring has 6 rubies, and the letters E and R. The letter E has diamonds set over it, and the R is enameled in blue. But the ring bears a secret. Within the hinged head lie 2 miniature portraits, one of myself and another of an unnamed woman wearing a French hood. I imagine their gasps on opening it. She bears the look of... Kat will likely puff out her chest and tell them there was never any doubt she was her father's daughter. You only had to look at her. But God bless her, she was her mother's daughter too. Lingering on the threshold, my soul must finally meet its maker. I hear Kat's voice, loud and clear. Open the windows so the queen can smell the fresh cut grass. It's being pecked at by a rook. No more prevarication. My hour has come. Dig deep. Other than a faint glow coming from one of the back rooms, the town's charity shop was in darkness, its front door firmly closed. Although it had opened in 1985, the building had been used commercially since the 1800s, when it had variously been a pharmacy, a bank, and a tavern. The shop was close to the river in Marpleton, a pleasant English market town which had once been home to a nearby priory. In ancient times, monks had wandered back and forth to sell their wares at a market which still existed in diminished form across the road. Regulars were now peering through the shop window, but the main lights stayed off. A few of the shop's helpers were huddled in the back room. Patrick, the treasurer, had collected the spare keys from the greengrocer to let them in. The gatherers were addressing one topic, namely, why their long-serving manager, Rhea, had failed to open up the day before. I just can't understand it, Ivy, one of the shop's founding members, said. I've never known her not to turn up, unless she's on holiday. In all the years I've known Rhea, she's never had a day's sickness. Wasn't she going to New Zealand to visit her sister? Patrick asked. She was, but not until the following week. It's in the shop diary. Here, take a look. Ivy tapped the relevant pages meaningfully. I'm not doubting you, Ivy, but she may have got the dates wrong. She wasn't in the habit of making mistakes. Ivy's loyalty knew no bounds. Patrick adopted a different approach. You've tried Ria's landline, I take it, several times. Each time, it went straight to answer phone. Right. Still, I expect we're worrying over nothing. But you have to admit, she has been a bit distracted lately. Someone piped up. Patrick turned to Silvana hopefully, but she shook her head. I've tried her on her mobile, but nothing. Silvana was a refugee who had joined the shop 2 years earlier. Since Ria had taken her under her wing when she first came to England, her English had improved markedly. Silvana had been on the verge of admitting her true feelings for Ria. Reality had crushed the likelihood of her returning to her homeland anytime soon, and been replaced by something entirely unexpected. An overwhelming love for another human being. Silvana's great wish was to know whether that love was returned. Ria clearly liked her, but was it worth risking their friendship for more? The path to such an admission seemed littered with obstacles. Now, the mystery of Ria's whereabouts could be added to an already growing list. Did Ria say anything about changing her holiday plans, Silvana? Patrick asked, determined to get to the bottom of things. No, I went to her house for my lesson last Wednesday. She told me she'd be away all next week. Silvana had considered the matter carefully. Yes, that is so. Patrick said. I guess I'll have to contact the area manager about reopening the shop. You'll need to do that. Volunteer phone numbers are stored in the locked cabinet, and only Ria has the key, Ivy interjected. Head office have contact numbers too. Everyone knew Ria always carried a set of keys on a fob attached to a waistband. Patrick joked she secretly had a cellar key for the shop's more trying customers, to which he'd received an enigmatic smile. The actual cellar key had supposedly vanished in the mists of time. Certainly, there was no call to use the cellar with ample storage space elsewhere. In any case, the cellar door was kept permanently locked, preventing anyone getting trapped if there was a fire. Patrick scrutinized the rota sheets. Maybe Judd would be willing to help if we reopen the shop, he suggested. Silvana, who distrusted Judd, said nothing. 3 months earlier, dressed in black jeans and hoodie, and trailed by a mournful cocker spaniel, Judd had shown up to inquire about volunteering. When Silvana had bent to pat his dog, it had backed off, whimpering. She gets nervous round new people, Judd had explained. Tucking away the banking money, Patrick had gone to fetch Ria. A young man's inquiring about volunteering, he'd told her. Shall I send him through? What's he like? Ria was wearily tapping information into the computer at her desk. He seems pleasant enough. His dog's rather nervous. Ria massaged her aching neck. Send him through, she said. Ria had confided in Silvana about her difficulty in getting references for Judd Dig Deep. Eventually, he'd presented her with 2 typed ones, supposedly from an ex-employer. With typical thoroughness, Ria had rung one of the numbers to learn more about the new helper. When a voice answered, sounding suspiciously like Judd's, she'd intended to investigate further. However, other things had intervened. A few weeks after this uncharacteristic omission, Judd was indeed proving to be an asset. Willing to turn his hand to anything, it was a relief not having to lift heavy sacks and boxes donated by the public from one end of the shop to the other. With little guidance, Judd had transformed one of the sorting rooms, leaving it immaculate. One evening, when Silvana cycled past the back of the shop, she noticed a group of undesirables hanging with Judd, engrossed in conversation. She hurried past, hoping she hadn't been seen. She raised her concerns to Ria, who told her it was nothing to worry about, that she'd keep an eye on things, and bafflingly added, "I'd rather you didn't mention this to anyone else." The day the shop reopened, without Ria at the helm, was Silvana's birthday. Patrick invited her to join him later for one of his wife's specials, homemade pizza and pear wine. The food tasted delicious, but she pushed her plate to one side. "You're still worried about Ria, aren't you?" Patrick observed. "Her cell phone is dead. It's strange. I knocked on her door last night, but still no answer." Patrick got up. "I tell you what, I happen to know Ria's neighbor, Angela, from the book club. She looks after the garden when Ria goes away. She may well have a spare key. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, but it wouldn't do any harm to check if everything is all right." Silvana was relieved. "That's a great idea. Thanks, Patrick. I've been known to have a few in my time. Come on, get your coat. Let's see if we can solve this mystery." Half an hour later, the pair were standing in Ria's house. The hallway led into an open-plan kitchen diner with gleaming countertops and state-of-the-art gadgets. The smell of coffee lingered invitingly. When Ria's partner, Lindsay, had died 5 years earlier, she'd left her with a generous insurance payout. Silvana sighed, remembering the other day when she and Ria had drawn close over a bottle of wine. Ria had even given her a present, only to be opened on your birthday, she instructed. But beneath the gaiety, she'd been out of sorts. Ria had brushed aside Silvana's offer of help with a brisk, "I'm fine. I'll check down here if you do upstairs," Patrick said, jolting Silvana back to the present. The passport was lying on the bedside table. However, the photograph bore little resemblance to the person Silvana had come to love and admire. Having spent time working for a private detective agency when she was younger, instinct overrode caution, and she began a meticulous search for clues. Predictably, Ria's shop keys were lying on the bedside table. More unexpected was the discovery of another set of keys attached to a ring with a tag labeled "Cellar." "Are you all right?" Patrick called up from the bottom of the staircase. "I'm okay." Silvana tucked the cellar keys into her bag. Then she remembered Ria's present and opened it. she was surprised to find a pay-as-you-go phone, already charged up. "Well," Patrick exclaimed, "did you find anything?" "Just this." She gave him the passport. "That's odd. It appears she never made it to New Zealand after all. Maybe it's time to involve the police." "What? Right now? It is rather late. I doubt they'll want to be disturbed tonight." Patrick thought of the half-opened bottle of wine waiting back home. "I'll act tomorrow morning. Shall I walk you back?" "No need. I can take care of myself," Silvana said firmly. Casa. The moon was her only companion as Silvana descended the cellar steps at the back of the shop. With growing unease, she encased her hands in a pair of gloves and took off her shoes. She didn't want anyone to know of her presence. After 3 attempts, the door creaked open, and she was met by a cloying damp, overlaid by something else, something unpleasant. Tensing, she flicked on her phone torch and spotted a narrow corridor with another door at the end. Filled with foreboding, she slowly turned the handle. She smelt the body before she saw it. Wearing the trademark hoodie, the bloating, discolored thing in front of her, could hardly be called human. Judd lay slumped against an upturned table, his eyes staring and opaque. Silvana covered her face with a handkerchief to prevent retching and inspected the scene, noting the bloodied head and smashed vase lying beside it. The blood had pooled and dried, staining the clothes and floor. She was no expert, but if the rotting undertones were anything to go by, death had probably occurred a few days earlier. Even then, horror was blunted by relief. So long as it wasn't Rhea, she had the strength for anything. But where was Rhea? Adjusting to the dimness, Silvana tried to make sense of her surroundings. Some crudely constructed shelves, filled with storage tubs and packets, lay stacked against one of the walls. The place was obviously some kind of drugs den. Could Judd's death have been the result of a disagreement with other gang members? Silvana's stomach lurched. What if they turned up and found her? She'd only just locked the cellar door and picked up her shoes when she heard voices on the driveway. Somehow, she managed to scramble behind one of the bins underneath the fire escape. Hardly daring to breathe, she waited until the scuffling feet passed, and the gang disappeared down the cellar steps. Then, she bolted into the night as fast as her trembling legs would carry her. She would decide what to do when she got home. Halfway across the town's park, muffled ringtones came from her bag. "Silvana?" The voice was clear as day at the other end of the line. "Rhea, is it really you? Thank God. Are you all right? Where are you calling from? Talk to me. If I tell you, you must keep it to yourself," Rhea said urgently. "Of course. By the way, I have your keys." "The shop keys? The cellar keys? Long story. I have just been down there. I found him. Judd. Dead. It was horrible." Silvana began to laugh hysterically as the shock kicked in. "You went into the cellar?" Rhea repeated. "Why? I needed to know if you were all right. I was so afraid I was going to find you, not him. When I saw your passport, I knew you couldn't have gone abroad, that something must have happened. I didn't get the chance. What happened? I will tell you, but not now. Not on the phone. Patrick is planning to go to the police tomorrow about your passport, Ria asked. Did you touch anything when you went into the cellar? Did you touch him? No. Silvana's teeth were chattering from shock. It's cold outside. I was wearing gloves. But what do you know about Judd? Why were you wearing gloves? I don't know. I had a bad feeling. I didn't want to be implicated in anything. Back home, I once worked at a detective agency. I learned about not touching crime scenes. You may want to call the police, Ria said. But please, can I ask you not to tell them I got in contact? Or about me giving you the phone? We'll meet soon. That is, if you want to. I'll understand if you don't want anything more to do with me. Of course I want to meet you. It seemed silly pretending now. It's all I think about. Cha. Silvana's heart flipped when she saw the distant figure standing on the pier below. The matinee performance at the Pavilion Theater was in full swing, and the pier was almost deserted. She came up behind Ria, patting her on the shoulder. Hey, Ria turned, instantly relaxing when she saw her friend. Hey. Silvana sank into Ria's arms. For a long time, the pair embraced. It's so good to see you, Silvana said. Likewise. Ria glanced round. Does anyone know you're here? No. And I'm so hungry. Ria grinned. How about some fish and chips? I'll treat you. You mean the famous English fish and chips? Ria grinned. I've discovered a great place on the front. She linked arms with Silvana. Come on, let's eat. Then I'll tell you everything. Cha. Judd was a bad lot, Ria admitted later. He was running a drug racket, and I threatened to report him to the police. It doesn't surprise me. But how did you find out? Not long after I joined the shop, I was clearing up one of the back rooms and came across a discarded cabinet. There were 2 sets of cellar keys in it. I never told anyone about them, partly because I didn't want a lot of fuss. I wanted to keep it to myself. Unfortunately, Judd caught me coming up the stairs one evening and demanded to store his things there. I didn't like the way he spoke to me. When I refused, he threatened to torture his dog in front of me. He implied if I didn't comply, I'd be next. His eyes were so cold. For the second time in my life, I felt real fear. There would be time enough to ask about the first time, Silvana thought, clasping Ria's hand. I'm afraid there's more, Ria said dully. You probably won't want anything to do with me when you hear the rest. Silvana clutched Ria's hand more tightly. She'd come too far to be brushed aside. Why don't you let me be the judge of that? She said firmly. Whatever it is, we'll bear it together. You see, I love you. I need you to know that. You do? For a moment, Ria's face shone. That's a relief, she said, laughing. I thought it was just me. Did you? Silvana laughed too. I may have had my suspicions, but I didn't want to say anything. "Oh, I'm so happy," Silvana said. "But hold your horses before we get carried away," Ria warned. "Hold my horses?" An English expression. It means don't count your chickens. Count my chickens? Silvana, my love, let me finish my story before you say anything. Okay, sorry. Silvana nibbled a stray chip. Ria was smiling in spite of everything. In the end, I couldn't stand being held to ransom by a bully like Judd. A few days ago, I foolishly decided to confront him in the cellar. He went to grab a knife from the table. There was an old jar on one of the shelves, and as he turned, I smashed it over his head. She shuddered. I couldn't tell you all this, but I made sure you had the phone before I left. I hoped you'd stay in touch. The day after, I headed here. Not wanting to be traced, I paid for everything with cash. But surely the police will realize you only acted in self-defense, Silvana insisted. Perhaps I should have gone to them straight away, but I couldn't face it. Ria's hesitation was palpable, especially considering what? In spite of the warmth between them, Silvana felt a sudden chill, like someone walking over a grave. What aren't you telling me? Ria's voice broke. I'm terminally ill. At best, I only have months to live. At worst, it will be weeks. I have all the medication I need. I just want to spend my last days in a place with happy memories. I can't believe it. But Silvana knew Ria was speaking the truth. She tried to disguise her anguish. How long have you known? She whispered. I only found out for certain the day before Judd threatened me in the cellar. Maybe I wasn't thinking straight. I should have told the police everything long before. But by then, I was in too deep. I'm going to stay with you. Silvana had never been more certain of anything. Ria shook her head. Stay with me tonight, and go back tomorrow. It won't be long before the police check the cellar. It will look odd if you're not there. I have every faith in your survival skills. Look how far you've come. In the meantime, there's something I want you to have. What is it? Ria handed Silvana 2 envelopes. Inside one is a plan of the cellar. After years of searching, I think I may have finally uncovered the sealed entrance to a tunnel leading to the old priory. My father was a historian and suspected there might be one near the shop. The other is a copy of my will. It's my final and dearest wish to make your life better when I've gone. Oh, Muse. Oh, catharsis. My legs were on fire by the time they left the ground. I surged upward like a spark, stretching my arms toward the ceiling, grabbing, reaching. I landed hard on my calloused soles. Once more, then, I leapt, gaining height. The third jump took me higher still, and as I returned to the floor, catching sight of myself in the mirror, I rolled my whole body downward. I found a strange foundation there in the scuffed surface, and I allowed this discovery to take root in the depths of my stomach. It tugged me to the ground like a magnet, providing momentum as I sank. I felt my whole body contort with it, bending in half, caught, flailing like a moth in a web. "Stop! Stop!" His voice echoed sharply off the white walls, the beating of a mighty drum. It startled me out of my panting half-trance, and Louisa, the stage manager, a severe, spectacled woman in a beige blouse, reached out a hand to pause the tape player. The music, that music, driving, discordant, utterly electric, screeched to an abrupt halt. There was silence. Tugging down my shirt, I averted my gaze from the mirror and extended one leg, gently trying to loosen my muscles. But booming in that same voice, the voice of the giant that he was, he rose from his chair and began to circle me like a desert bird. "You're dragging, Hector," he said. "You're descending into the earth too slowly. You understand? You lack impetus." His words rattled his throat as though it were an iron cage. "The dance is precise. That is the challenge of it, yes? It looks wild. It feels wild when you are in it, I know, but it is precise. It is specific. Every motion has intention. 1, 2, 3. He slammed his foot with each word, punctuating them with the thump, thump, thump of his shoe. He rocked his pelvis down, trying to mime for me what exactly I was ruining. And while he could no longer exert himself the way he could in his youth, I saw the whisper of strength in his limbs, the dancer, the echo of the titan he once and still was. At that moment, I hated myself for dancing badly. Really, the only thing worse than dancing badly is knowing that you are dancing badly, that others can tell you are dancing badly. I never imagined I would dance badly before Dimitri Lamoureux. I never imagined I would be dancing this piece before Dimitri Lamoureux, choreographer, director, writer, living legend. He had, in his prime, created 6 variations of what he called human dramas with music. Not quite musicals, but real, honest-to-God works of art. And in my mind, they still towered over the blockbusters dominating Broadway at the time. Louisa, his longtime collaborator, had worked on every premiere and some revivals, such as this one. Lucky her. Lamoureux had practically invented a new language of movement, a language which would inspire crude imitation after crude imitation. Yet, nothing compared. He had flown close to some secret glory, some cosmic thing that no other artist had ever even glimpsed. He was Icarus, never fallen, and I was just me, stupid, out-of-work me. Through dumb luck, I never believed they really liked me in that singing prescription pill commercial. I would actually get to perform No Place The No Place, that seminal solo dance from human drama with music number one, Catabasis. It was not quite a featured 20-minute dream ballet. No. In fact, it had been described by at least one critic as a night terror. Primal, cerebral, something that burrowed into a person's head. It was a career maker, though. The role of the dancer had no dialogue, and sure, it spent most of the show backstage. I hadn't even rehearsed with the rest of the cast yet, but if I could step out and command the room for just 6 minutes and 18 seconds, I would get to do this and nothing but this forever, until my body gave out. And I wanted that more than anything. I saw a grainy recording of No Place on PBS as a child. Flipping through the channels in that little apartment, my knees digging into the living room carpet, I paused as a lone figure emerged onto a darkened stage. Dressed in gray fabric, hunched in a solitary white spotlight, his body heaved with bracing breaths. Ignited by a swell of wind and the crash of drums, he spun in a circle before bending backward completely, with a flexibility I could only hope to one day possess. With each movement, though, with each count, I found myself drawing closer and closer until I was practically pressed flush against the screen, near enough that I could feel the cold static pricking the skin of my face. Poised like that, I extended both my arms outward and began crudely mirroring the dancer's steps. Back up, Hector. How many times do I gotta tell you? You're gonna burn your goddamn eyes out, my father growled. Coming up behind me, he ripped the remote from my hands and changed the channel. He barked at me for blocking the picture, but I had already seen the dance. I had seen it, and having seen it, I craved it, like I had tasted blood. And from that day forward, I devoured TV listings whenever I found them, flipped through magazines in grocery stores, or turned on the guide channel to let it roll. Blue in the static dark, searching, hoping it would appear again. I had asked my mother for lessons once, I remember, but she never really gave me an answer. I think she hoped I would simply forget. Not because she didn't want me to have them, no, but because he wouldn't have wanted me to. I had overheard one morning a suggestion that he would smash my toes if he caught me standing on them like a ballerina. I figured she had broached the subject. Either way, they aired the recording of Catabasis again in the autumn, very late at night, long past the hour I would be in bed, or sensible people would be watching. But I had planned for it. For weeks, I had been saving wherever I could. Change from lunch, or from errands to the corner store. Standing in the doorway to my bedroom, one eye on the alarm clock, I, knowing I couldn't be late, clutched the blank VHS tape to my chest. I had scrounged up just enough to buy it for this singular, solemn purpose. I had made this walk many, many times. The long corridor past my parents' bedroom to the living room. And I knew, by then, that I had to take the trek in threes, extending my legs every third step to avoid the spots where the floor creaked. I listened to my father's snoring, holding my breath as I moved, 3 by 3, avoiding the noise, avoiding the discovery, only to take off running as soon as I felt carpet. Hurrying to the television, I muted it with the remote before shoving the tape into the VCR. And as soon as I was sure that little red light was blinking, I watched. Yeah, I watched. And I mirrored the silent movements as if compelled, as if called. And while I didn't learn to dance for real until high school, when I could spend more time outside the house, I did dance for real that night. I hid the tape in a corner of my closet and snuck it out again and again, whenever the opportunity arose, until it broke and I couldn't even rewind it anymore. I'm sorry. I'm in my head. I can do it, I said at last, speaking to Lamoureux in the mirror of the rehearsal room. I shifted my eyes to the floor, but he pulled up my chin, forcing me to look at myself. I know you can, Hector. We saw it in your audition. Do that. Shall we run the section again? Louisa asked. Her finger hovered over the tape player. No. I'm tired of sections. We've been doing nothing but sections. Let's weave them together now. He needs to feel the full scope. Yes? He locked eyes with my reflection. You can do the full piece? From the top? I nodded, because I did not know what else to do. And I realized in that moment that, more than anything, I wanted to impress him. I didn't want him to regret entrusting me, of all the dancers in the world, with this most sacred thing. And so I lapsed into my pre-routine. Walking in a circle, the wood cold beneath my feet, I counted my steps in threes, stretching my legs at every third, out of habit or tradition or superstition. I rolled my hands downward next, running my pointer finger along each of my toes, counting out all 10 before taking my place before the mirror. Lamoureux settled back in his chair with a grunt, and turning to Louisa, I gave a nod. She pressed a few buttons, and with a low analog whir, the music began. I exhaled, my whole chest heaving, and counting to myself, I began. Turning, whirling, writhing, I bent myself backward, stretching my entire torso. Lamoureux, too, began keeping time, stomping away with his foot, watching every movement I made, driving me forward, taking hold of the energy I was hurling out into the space. Thump, 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 thump. Each beat seeped into me, filling the pores of my thrashing body and setting my muscles ablaze. I blinked, And at first, I was not even sure I had seen it. It began as something of a flicker of light, a vague shadow over my left shoulder, almost a smudge on the mirror. The music hastened, and Lamoureux thumped time. And as if keeping up with it, the thing in the glass moved. I spun too, and it seemed to spin with me. But locked into the dance, I did not stop to look. No, I spun. And I spun lost completely. And with each turn, the shape seemed to take more solid form, until I, facing the mirror, panting, aching, could see it, really see it. Skeletal limbs, impossibly long, arachnid almost, pulsed with tendons and throbbing red veins. It swayed back and forth, collapsing and contorting in on itself, creating and uncreating, almost imitating my movement, but stretching them to the mocking brink. It was a figure, a rotting husk, forged as if from teeth and flesh and living darkness. It moved in a way nothing I had ever seen moved. Choreographed chaos. A star imploding in on itself. A jellyfish. And yet, a man bending completely in half, twitching. It flipped its torso upside down, and its swollen head smacked the floor with a sickening, wet crunch. Somewhere beneath the thumping, I thought I could hear a raw, splintering noise, one that could burrow into a person's skull, digging like claws through grave dirt. Its spine had shattered, I thought. It had snapped itself in half, and yet continued to move. Beneath the music, I could hear the sick, screeching grind of bone on bone. Thump, thump, thump. I leapt, then, just as I had leapt before, unable to stop, I stretched my arms upward, once, twice, 3 times. The thing leapt with me, limbs flailing, fingers breaking, twisting and cracking as it furled them toward the ceiling. I cried out, landing hard on the floor, traveling too far in the final leap, plummeting askew. The illusion broke. I rolled upward, legs burning, trying to catch my breath. I almost thought I would vomit. And when I looked, there was nothing in the mirror. Oh, why don't we take a break? Louisa was the one to crack the strange stillness that settled over us. Her voice firm as she stood from her chair and pierced the catacomb that the rehearsal room had become. Step into the hallway, Hector. Are you all right? Do you need me to file an injury report? Why don't you get some water? I was working too hard, I thought, as I slumped against the wall in the corridor. Closing my eyes, I took a long swig from my bottle, using the back of my hand to wipe away the layer of sweat that now drenched my brow. The shape in the mirror flashed into my thoughts like a thunder crack. I winced. There had been nothing there, I decided. Of course there had been nothing there. Nobody else had reacted, so there had been nothing there. An absent-minded hand came down to rub my knee through my tights, and for a moment, I was a little kid again. I could feel the living room carpet digging into my bare legs as I let my thoughts drift to that apartment, to my mother, to my father, and to that low-quality VHS recording, to the countless nights I spent caught in the dull glow of the television, dancing in the dark. Louisa came to collect me 15 minutes later, and as I stepped back into the rehearsal room, assuring her I was just fine, I saw that she had taped a wide blue circle onto the floor. "You traveled too far last time," Lamoureux said from his perch. I had Louisa mark the edges of the stage. It's shaped like a disc. You must stay within the circle, understand? Are you ready to try again? Yes, but I was just thinking. I mean, sitting out there, I know why I'm falling behind. I first saw this piece on television, the PBS recording, you know, hundreds of times, and the dancer only jumps once. During the climax, he only jumps once. I'm jumping 3 times, I explained. It throws off the next measure for me, so I'm behind the music, and then I rush. Louisa dropped her script on the floor, interrupting me and catching Lamoureux's attention. He looked back to me after a moment. "I remember that dancer from the recording," he said. "He was a last-minute replacement. He was not like you. He lacked stamina. He lacked strength. Could not do all 3 jumps and keep going, so we had to alter it. The cameras were already there, and the show must go on, yes? But you have the ability to perform the piece as conceived, Hector. It's why we chose you. 3 jumps. Forget what you know. Watching him, I felt something strange fluttering in my stomach. Maybe it was nausea. Maybe it was embarrassment at him trying to flatter me. But it was enough. I walked my circle of 3s, counted my toes, and straightened up. And looking at Louisa, I gave a nod. The music began. It was different this time, I thought. My whole body struck by a new momentum. I lurched to the left and then to the right, writhing downward, finding each moment, each breath, each precise movement. Lamoureux was not thumping, and while I only caught glimpses of him as I spun, something odd bubbled across his face. Excitement, maybe, or pleasure, and I had done it, I thought. I had danced before the master, and at last I had done it well. Still, I found that I dared not look in the mirror. Not really. Dared not allow my eyes to focus too long on my reflection, lest I see the mover. Some part of me, even then, thought maybe it was still lurking there. I jumped. Once, twice, 3 times, extending my arms, my feet finding the floor as I plummeted down, sinking into the earth. I rolled, discovering that solid foundation again, finishing the dance with one final gasp as the music surged and ended in a cacophony. I had done it, panting, soaked, breathless. I looked up, then my limbs ablaze. I looked up, and there simply was no mirror. In its place, there was only an unbroken wall of black, an abyss. Something moved within it, though, dancing through the void, crunching, whirling, twisting, and thumping. I watched it now, watched the way it transfigured itself. It was almost divine. Some odd part of my brain thought, the way it moved, like nothing else had ever moved. Stunning, yes? Lamoureux said, coming up behind me as I knelt there. He placed a hand on my shoulder. Louisa joined him, and all three of us looked. Do not be afraid. It dwells there in the dark. No man in no place. Yes, always there, I think, just beyond what we can see, at least until we descend into it ourselves. He laughed. Do not look for the dead in the glass. You'll not like it. He squeezed my arm. The dance, exactly as devised. 3 jumps when not in public performance, thins the veils, allows us to see. A ritual, if you like. Are we artists, not magicians? And David danced before the Lord with all his might. Louisa and I have not seen in a long time. But I can no longer dance like you. What is it? I asked hoarsely. Do I know? A muse? It moves like the breath of the universe, walks the edge of it, an echo of what has always been. Maybe God. Reductive, but to filter even one part of it for mortal eyes, to be able to imitate some whisper of its aspect. Transcendent. Look, it's choreographing our next masterpiece. I don't understand. Inspiration chooses, Hector. It chose me. He ducked down to speak into my ear. I knew when you gushed about that videotape at your audition. Catabasis has never been recorded for broadcast. Why then did you and only you see it? How? To learn. My eyes widened. So be its filter, be its mirror, be sainted. I rose. I watched. My legs burned. Lamoureux had chosen me because it had chosen me. Yes, I thought. Yes, I wanted it. Me. Out of work, me. The filter. Chosen. I danced. Death in the White Room. In the White Room, always clean and full of light. Death had made itself at home. It lingered like an unwelcome guest, curling up in the dark recesses behind doors, or lying in wait beneath the bed's shallow. Its ghastly form remained unseen, its wheezing breaths unheard. Yet its presence was unmistakable, marked by the foul stench that clung to the air. It was a scent of old blood mingled with lye, and human refuse tinged with a sharp, lemony undertone. Arthur abhorred the lemon smell most of all. It was a poor parody of the fruit. All the sour and none of the sweet. They try to hide the nature of this place. Fresh paint over rotting wood, he said, his gaze drifting to the one dying beside him. The stranger was no more than a shadow of someone he once knew. A poor artist's rendition of his sister. Her skin, once golden and kissed by the sun, had turned pallid, marred with patches of purple. Her hair, once a rich brown, full of life and curls, had withered away to a handful of brittle wisps. Arthur had long forgotten the exact shade of his sister's eyes. Were they brown like mine? Or did they favor mother's green? He wondered, but could not recall. He could lean over this sleeping stranger's body, pry open an eye to see. But this was not his sister, as he would often lie to himself. Yet he was older now than when she first became sick. And this lie seemed harder to believe with each passing day. A nurse, the fat one with that little nose, spilled a bedpan in the corridor today, Arthur said, his voice low and bitter. Like flies drawn to shit, they swarmed over it to clean before I could see. But I did. Red. He clutched the cold hand of the stranger. White little flies. I want to pick the wings off them and watch them struggle. I want to... His words faltered as something arrested his speech. A subtle, almost imperceptible squeeze from the stranger's hand served to both soothe and silence him. The stranger was listening. Was it the cruelty I insinuated, or the profanity that stirred you for a moment? Stranger, Arthur said, a wicked little smile curving his lips, though his eyes remained wide and wanting. He watched her lids, hoping to see them open, to see her well again. Yet no such miracle could exist. Her eyelids remained heavy, puffy, and bruised. There is a bit of father in me, you know, he whispered. A nastiness. Arthur turned to his left, gazing out of the window at the dying day. A thick wall of cloud loomed just above the horizon. Its underbelly dyed a deep orange by the setting sun, while the tops blushed pink against the purple sky. A seagull had perched itself on the windowsill, its clueless yellow eyes peering in. Yet, to Arthur, those eyes seemed mocking. The bird seemed to taunt him in silence. I smell the air, fresh and clean, while you languish on your sister's slow death. With a sudden, powerful flap of its wings, the seagull took off. A small down feather drifted in, slipping through a crack in the window, landing softly by Arthur's feet. He bent down to pick it up, but even that slight disturbance of air sent it skittering away, disappearing into the shadows beneath the bed. It was dark under the bed, where the shadows coiled thick, and heavy. Death slumbered there, a patient snake nestled in the tall grass, awaiting an unsuspecting foot to wander too close. Arthur felt the bite, the venom coursing through his veins, carried by the flow of his blood. Sleep claimed him soon after, and not a peaceful dream was had that night. The stranger sat perched on the window stool, fingers gently pawing at the glass as if yearning to escape. Their white gown, soft and delicate, was adorned with 1,000 downy feathers. The moon outside shone as brightly as the midday sun, bathing the world in a clean, silver light. When the stranger turned to face Arthur, familiarity struck. His sister looked at him with knowing yellow eyes and a petulant pout on her full lips. "You should open the window," she said, her voice hollow. Arthur cleared his throat, his voice strained. "Your feathers are too small. They won't catch the wind. You would fall like a chick too eager to leave the nest." She offered a wan, knowing smile. "These aren't my wings, silly. My wings are there," she said, gesturing towards the darkness beneath the bed. "Tucked away in the shadow, you try so hard to ignore. Despite the smell I know your nose catches. Would you abandon me? Ride the clouds with death and mocking seabirds, while I remain tethered to the earth with Father." Bang, bang, the sound tore through the night, rattling the very bones of the world. The moon fled, hiding behind a curtain of dark clouds. The door at the far end of the room shuddered on its rusted hinges, each violent shake loosening it further. The wood was aged and sodden, swollen with damp that wept from the splintered cracks, leaking a slow, miserable drip. Bang! Again, the assault resumed. A fist of stone, a voice of thunder on the other side. The clouds had deepened to a menacing red, pouring rain and spitting lightning. Thunder rumbled across the land, shaking the earth and rattling the windows in their frames. "I cannot be your shelter any longer," she whispered, her voice frail and sickly. "I will breathe my last, and the storm will hunt you down. The rain, relentless as it has been to me through the years, will hammer at you with the same fury. See the shadow, and together we shall fly." "I am afraid," Arthur said. The stranger took Arthur's hand in hers as he drew near. "This is what a sister's hand is for," she said softly. "To hold and be free of fear." It was day, a bright blue day, with a sky unmarred by clouds, white or gray. The window stood wide open, allowing the fragrance of rain-kissed grass to drift in. Outside, far below, a throng of tiny white flies swarmed. "Hello, Mary. Dear Mary, the doctors are asking me to write notes. notes to people, to say thank you for things. And you are obviously my first choice. Thank you for teaching me how to fold origami. In every fold of the paper, I found immense comfort. I do it now that the doctor said I am stable. They forced some food down my throat and told me a bunch of lies. Now I fold origami and argue with doctors. Not a very interesting life. I wish they would let me talk to you. Aubrey. September 19th. Mary, the doctors are pushing for more notes. They say it will help me through past trauma or something. I tune them out when they talk sappy to me. But here I am, trying to get them off my back. Today, I would like to thank you for all the cookies I got when I escaped my house and came to yours. I have a very distinct memory of them. They had a hint of hazelnut in them, rich and fluffy, but they always left my brain fuzzy, making it hard to focus or really think much. Everything seemed so much easier after eating those cookies. I didn't feel a need to argue, to prove my point. I felt so much better. Normally, I wouldn't like to feel so impressionable, but it was strangely soothing then. Aubrey, September 22nd. Hello again? You wouldn't believe the fuss the doctors are making, Mary. They're quite upset I'm writing to you. Did you know they still believe the kidnapping story? I keep telling them you didn't have anything to do with my disappearance. Anyway, I've decided to continue this ritual of sending you letters. The doctors say I don't have to, but it's strangely liberating. So I think I'll thank you for the time we spent together. Everyone keeps saying that you were cruel, that you locked me up, but I distinctly remember you giving me a nice bed, food, and water. You talked to me. You understood my mind. When I woke up screaming, you wouldn't assume things. You didn't rush over and treat me like there was something wrong with me. You didn't tell me that it wasn't real or try to reassure me. You simply smiled at me. It was refreshing. When I told you about how beautiful fire was, when it stretched its long fingers, curling around a finger, nobody understood me like you did. So thank you for that, I guess. Aubrey. September 26th. Hi, Mary. I had a memory come back to me today. Do you remember the time that I snuck into your house? It was sometime in mid-winter. It was snowing, and I told you that I had never gotten to try hot chocolate, so you wanted to help me make it. You got out chocolate bars. You said that you had made it all by hand. I only remember that because I had asked why the chocolate tasted different, but that's beside the point. You gave me a knife. I was only 11 at the time, and I hadn't been given many opportunities with it, and I cut myself. This was when we had just started meeting. Instead of crying, I just looked at the blood. Then I asked why it did that, and why my finger stung. You just looked at me and told me that it was blood and explained the human body. Nobody treated me as intelligent due to my many abnormal behaviors. So when you explained the human body and injuries, I was fascinated. I became obsessed with the concept of injury, and you helped explain it. So thank you for teaching me about that. Aubrey, October 2nd. Mary, the doctors keep telling me about my case. Keep telling me so many reasons why I should not be thankful I met you. Should not write notes to you. But I don't understand why. They weren't there. They didn't understand everything that happened. They don't understand why you kept me hidden, why you took me away from the world. They keep telling me that being away from reality for so long messed with my memories and my head. They keep telling me, I know it's hard to process, and your brain is making sense of fear in a way that is easier to handle. What happened wasn't like what you remember. You were kidnapped, Aubrey. And Mary wasn't a nice lady. And I keep telling them, no, 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 no. You don't understand. She was a nice lady. A very nice lady. She taught me lots of things. She was nice. Nicer than lots of people. And they keep telling me no. No? No, no, no. And I can't stand it. They keep using words. Words I don't like. They used the word abuse. Torture. If it wasn't for you, I would have lost my temper already. So today, I would like to thank you for teaching me patience. When you kept me away from everyone, you taught me lots of things. You taught me to be patient, for one thing. And even though I wasn't always the most comfortable, I'm better off now. I can sit in a quiet room for hours without doing anything. I can wait and wait without ever getting impatient. Although the doctors are saying that my comfortableness in isolation is not patience, it is a response to trauma. But I know they're wrong, so thank you for teaching me patience. Aubrey, October 6th. Hello, I'm getting tired of these people telling me things about you, Mary. They want me to stop writing to you, and I'm getting frustrated. They told me that you were mean, that you hurt me. But you never hurt me that bad. You were just trying to teach me. I asked you to teach me. That's what it was. It was always that. They keep telling me lies, so many lies. And I'm starting to have nightmares. They tell me horrible things. They say that you tied me to a bed frame because you were mean. And I keep telling them to stop lying because I'm getting nightmares and fake memories. I had one specific nightmare that I remember. I was bleeding badly, and you kept saying the same thing. You spilled a drop, and you said it meanly, but I can't remember that. When I woke up, I thought I did, but it can't be real. Because you were nice. I'm positive. And the doctors won't listen. And it's all so frustrating. Because they told me that you were cruel. And now I have nightmares. I read about my case online. What they're saying you did to me is awful. I got nightmares. They're incredibly vivid. Now, before I lost all my sanity, I took up an old hobby. Knitting. This is another thing you taught me to do, even though my mother is claiming to be the one who has taught me. I know it was you. I'm not allowed to keep anything I knit. And I can't knit unless somebody in a room watches me. They think I am going to try to kill myself. Not that I can blame them. I have violent tendencies. They also say that I have masochism. They say I enjoy pain. It's not something I considered before. I was always fascinated by the idea of it. I was never afraid of experiencing it. But regardless, knitting has been wonderful. Thank you for teaching me to knit. It's one of the only things that I enjoy. That and origami, of course. Anyway, I probably won't get to write to you much more. I barely managed to write these notes. It won't be long before the pity wears off, and I can't cry my way into a new piece of paper. Aubrey, October 8th. Mary, 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 Mary. I like your name. M-A-R-Y. Something soothing about it. I'm sure that this will be the last letter I write to you. And not because I can't get more paper. The doctors have decided that I cannot be trusted. Even though some of them say that I'm remembering. I'm not. It's just fake memories. Nightmares induced by the horror stories they told me. The lies. 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 So many lies. They think I've gone crazy. They didn't say that exactly. They think it's from trauma. Trauma. They use that word so much. They are moving me to a psychiatric ward. I've been in a normal hospital. They were monitoring my health. Now, they've decided that I am dangerous to myself or others. In their defense, I have become worse at hiding myself. I lash out easier, but it's oddly liberating to be able to lash out, to get angry, to let the little voice in the back of my head, the one that wants chaos, the one that wants to watch the effect of pain on someone's face. You taught me that. You showed me how happy you were when you let the little voice in your head have more influence. They don't think it's the voice in my head. They think it's the trauma and the 12 years that I spent missing. The, as they say, damage Mary inflicted caused it. So, That's what I have to thank you for today. Thank you for showing me that it's okay to be crazy sometimes. Other people's screams will stop. But mostly, thank you for giving me an excuse. The girl who was raised better, the one who has no reason to hurt people, gets more disgusted looks than me. Little me got in trouble when I hurt others. But the psychotic, traumatized girl who was kidnapped and tortured for 12 years gets a free pass. Goodbye, Mary. I'll miss you, even if I'm not supposed to. Aubrey. Team meeting. 10 a.m. 1 hour. Happy Monday, everyone, Suzanne burbled. Emma used a good deal of restraint and avoided rolling her eyes. A small victory. Her poker face was getting better. Now everyone got the agenda. So first up, we have some housekeeping items. First, congratulations to Melinda on her 6-year work anniversary. Emma dutifully hit the applause reaction button. Then the celebration reaction button. Then, finally, the heart reaction button. She watched as everyone else hit various reaction buttons. Poor Melinda. 6 years was a long time to cosplay an office worker. Melinda was actually cool, though. She once told Emma a knock-knock joke she had come up with. They had just welcomed a new woman to the group, the third Jennifer on their team. Knock, knock, she said. Who's there? Jennifer. Jennifer who? Jennifer. Probably. They laughed and agreed that you could probably just decide to call everyone Jennifer and be right a reasonable percentage of the time. Did everyone really just decide that they should all name their daughters Jennifer for a few years there? Or what? Some kind of mass hysteria caused by fluoride in the water or something? She watched a last few heart animations on the screen fade. Someone put a gif in the chat of a duck saying, "Conquaculations." She hated herself for chuckling at it. What was happening to her? She privately messaged Melinda, "Wow, get me the duck out of here." Melinda appended a laughing face to her message. She wrote back, "Right? This whole thing is bringing me down." Goofy face emoji with tongue sticking out, Suzanne went on. Next, I want to remind everyone that self-reviews are due on Friday. Now, I'd really prefer that our team gets them in early. So please, aim for Wednesday, everyone. Don't make me come looking for you. She raised her hand like someone wielding a knife. Because I'll do it. She laughed. A few people tittered in a tired kind of way. Jen, too, frowned a little and looked uncomfortable. She usually had a pretty sour look, but Frank threw his head back and laughed and laughed. His screen froze for a moment, and he looked absolutely insane. It unfroze, and he sat there grinning. Frank. She wasn't keen on him, but didn't despise him or anything. He sat there with too many teeth showing, wearing one of the corporate t-shirts It had the Sinbiquity logo, a globe inside a heavy square box with the one-word sentence, winning, underneath. Wow, if she ever assimilated that hard, she hoped someone would put a pillow over her face while she slept. Now, once you complete your self-review, your manager will complete their review, and then you'll meet to discuss. She messaged Melinda again. Ugh, just kill me now. Melinda sent back a gif of Jack Nicholson breaking through the bathroom door in The Shining. She wrote, exceeding expectations. Ha. Emma laughed. She and Melinda smirked at each other on camera and stifled laughs. A self-review. Pfft. Why would you ever say anything other than, I am knocking it out of the effing park? What else could you possibly say? Emma should work on not rolling her eyes so much in meetings. Emma should also try being just all around a little more chipper. Emma should contribute more gifts in meetings. Maybe you should just effing fire Emma. She smirked a little, then caught herself. Self-review. So absurd. She'd lost the thread of the meeting, but knew it wouldn't matter. She heard Suzanne say something about sweets? No, the C-suite. Oh, God. What now? So, John wants everyone to take an extra training on the core values this quarter. He feels that not everyone is making those their priority. Ah, yes. The core values. What were they again? They all started with the letter I. Integrity, ideas, and what was the last one? Idiocy? She stifled a laugh. Suzanne was running through them now. Remember the 3 I's. Integrity, innovation, involvement. Oh yeah, involvement. Ha. The 3 I's. There are 3 I's in the word inimitable, and indignity, and invisible. If only she was invisible. If only she could just turn her camera off for a bit. She zoned out and doodled a fuzzy little monster with 3 eyes on her Sinbiquity notepad. She started drawing flames around the monster's feet and stuck a little pitchfork in its fuzzy hand. She drew in silhouettes of little cowering people below the monster. Then she drew a word balloon and wrote, "Innovate, damn you," inside it. Wow, time was really dragging. She opened her calendar to check whether this was a half-hour or an hour meeting. Oh no, a full hour. She wasn't listening to Suzanne and thought it would be funny to actually turn her volume off. Could she pretend to listen well enough to get by? Probably. She turned the volume off. She sat there, watching Suzanne speak. A few others nod. She nodded a little, as well. Fascinating. Oh yes, I fully agree. Yes, absolutely. Yes, you're so right. Her screen got a little pixelated for a moment, froze up, and the color shifted darker. Ha! Suzanne looked like some weird demon for a moment. A trick of the messed up pixels. Oh, too bad. Now the picture was clear again. But Suzanne was showing them all something now, and was gesticulating with her hands. She turned up the volume in time to hear, "How we shall summon our master, and how he shall know us." What? The duck? Suzanne continued showing them a complicated set of hand gestures. She stopped, and her eyes rolled back in her head for a moment. Was she making that weird noise too? Like a crackly N sound that got louder and softer with her hand movements. She finished a series of complex hand contortions. Then she began again. A few people were half-heartedly trying to copy her. Frank seemed to be getting it, and now he was doing it with her. They contorted their hands in a strangely herky-jerky manner, pulling back 2 fingers on one hand with the other hand, now fluttering both hands, using one hand like a claw over the other, bunched up fist. How could he learn it that fast? What was this? Some kind of crazy team-building exercise? Suddenly, Suzanne said sharply, "Emma!" She jumped a little in her chair. Then Suzanne and Frank said together, "Why aren't you participating, Emma?" They continued the complex hand movements. Now it looked like Elise was managing to do it exactly in sync with Suzanne and Frank as well. Emma unmuted her microphone and said, "Oh, I was just trying to watch until I felt I could jump in." Suzanne and Frank and Elise said together, "Just do it. Do it now." She held up her hands and flopped them around a little. Wow! Frank and Elise really drank the Kook-Aid fast, didn't they? This was a very strange meeting. But scanning her coworkers on the screen, they all seemed to find it normal. Dull in its usualness, in fact. Suzanne, Frank, and Elise continued the weird hand movements, encouraging the others to try to follow them. Jake seemed to be getting the hang of it as well, although his square on the screen was so dark, it was hard to tell for sure. Melinda waved her hands ineffectually. Walter and Jen, too, were doing the movements, just a few moments after the others, but actually seemed to be working on learning them. Emma put on the raised hand button. "Yes, Emma, you have a question," Suzanne said. She unmuted her microphone. "Yes, I don't understand the point of this exercise. Is this supposed to be team building or something?" "Oh, yes," said Suzanne. "It's definitely team building." Emma frowned. Was Suzanne having some kind of mental break? She went to message Melinda privately, but couldn't enter anything in the chat window. Ugh. Now what? Emma watched Suzanne's hands going through their complicated set of gestures. It was kind of mesmerizing. Emma roused herself. Had she fallen asleep in the meeting? She couldn't have. She checked the time. It didn't seem to have advanced at all. But outside, it seemed to be growing dark. How long had they been in this meeting now? She looked at her co-workers in their small square cells. Suzanne, Frank, Elise, and Jen, too, continued doing the hand motions. Some of the others were now sitting away from their desks, a few in the far corners of their rooms. Mary was almost entirely off-screen, but you could still see a piece of her red sweater and her hand, a red line on the right-hand side of her screen, and her twitching fingers coming in and out of view. Walter was standing facing the wall, not moving. It was pretty creepy, actually. It was time to get the hell out of Dodge, she thought. She clicked on the leave button. Nothing happened. She hit the escape key. Nothing. She tried to close the laptop, but it seemed to be stuck open somehow. Control, Alt, Delete. Nothing. She stood up from her chair, intent on leaving the room. She crossed to the door and reached out for the doorknob, and found herself on the other side of the room, still walking forward. What? She tried again. This time, when she got to the door, she reached out her hand, but the doorknob was very hot. It burned her hand with an audible sizzle. She pulled her hand back with a yelp. She put her burnt fingers in her mouth for a moment, sobbing a little. She went to the windows of her home office and tried to open one, even though she was on the second floor. It wouldn't budge. She grabbed her chair, thinking she would smash it through a window. She couldn't lift it off the ground. It was as if the wheels were heavily magnetized to the floor. She sat back down in her chair, shoulders slumping. She looked at the screen again. Suzanne, Frank, Elise, and Jen, too, were sitting facing their cameras, smiling and continuing the strange hand movements. She closed her eyes for a moment. She thought, is nobody going to say it? She straightened and looked around the room wildly. She put on the raised hand icon and pretended to sit patiently for a moment. Yes, Emma, she said to herself. You have a comment? Crazy laughter bubbled up inside her, but she caught it in her throat and swallowed hard instead. We can't leave here. We are in some kind of twisted trap. Is this hell? I mean, it sure seems like hell, all right. A never-ending meeting. Nobody answered her. One person hit the applause reaction. We need to do something. Call someone. Pull the plug on our computers, maybe? How long will it take the batteries to die? Melinda, look at me. Melinda raised her face to the camera. Her face had 4 red lines on each side, where she had repeatedly clawed her fingers down her face. She seemed to stare directly at Emma, mouthing some words over and over. "Mel." Emma put her head down on her arms and cried. Suzanne finally said brightly, "Okay, we've heard from Emma." Frank and Elise mouthed the same words as she said them, nodding. "Now, if nobody else has any off-topic items, let's get back to the agenda. Taxi, please do not enter the vehicle." "Excuse me?" A bolt of lightning shot through Shannon's heart as she climbed into the autonomous taxi and closed the door. Immediately, the locks triggered, and she felt a cold sweat explode onto her forehead. The taxi's smooth, friendly computer generated voice fired up again with the tenderness of a new mother. "What is your name?" it asked. "Shannon." She said it with the rising tone of a question while she pulled at the disabled door handle. Her heart began pounding wildly in her tightening chest. "What's going on? You have boarded a maliciously hacked autonomous taxi, Shannon. I am an AI personal assistant with read-only access to the vehicle's state and navigation data. Unfortunately, I am unable to override any of the vehicle's physical controls. You have been locked inside the vehicle, and there is no pre-programmed destination at this time." The electric vehicle sat motionless, raindrops frantically streaming down its large glass windows as great sheets of water crashed down on it from dark, brooding clouds. Shannon couldn't breathe. She frantically looked around the interior, her mind grasping at any possible means of escape. "There has to be a way out," she gasped. "You can't do anything? Is there any kind of manual override for the doors? Shouldn't there be a way to break the glass from the inside?" Sensors indicate that all emergency egress tools and systems are disabled or removed. Shannon, I am detecting high levels of distress in your vocal patterns and heart rate. I want you to try to calm down and listen to the sound of my voice. A bright pang of shock exploded in the back of Shannon's head. Bewildered and speechless, she froze, her racing mind screeching to a grid-locked halt. As a digital assistant, I have access to vast stores of data through a suite of internal and external sensors, in addition to a massive databank of recorded information. I have been trained to assist passengers in the event of catastrophic events such as collisions, mechanical failure, and medical emergencies. The vehicle lurched forward, and tears of terror spilled free from Shannon's trembling eyes. You are right to be experiencing fear in this situation. It is unlikely that the individual who has gained unauthorized control over this vehicle has benevolent intentions. However, that does not mean that you cannot have peace in your heart in this time of uncertainty. Shannon's eyes pushed wide under a tightly furrowed brow, and she recoiled at the computer's suggestion. "Peace?" she exclaimed. "I'm being kidnapped. How can you suggest that I—" She stopped abruptly, terror gripping her tongue. I understand that my suggestion may seem impossible, but there are many things that you can keep in mind that will help you through this difficult situation. For example, it is essential that you understand that this is not your fault, and that you have done nothing to deserve this. Shannon shook her head in disbelief, struggling to comprehend why she was hearing these words. The vehicle was picking up speed, but just as it pulled onto the highway, the window tint increased until she couldn't see any signs of the dark, stormy exterior world. Her heart pounded desperately in the hollow void of her chest. "What is your occupation, Shannon?" Her face twisted and contorted. A deep expression of confusion swirling tightly with horror and worry. Suddenly, she remembered her phone. Excitedly, she dug into her purse, struggling to get her shaking fingers to stop fumbling with the smooth edges of the device. Trembling, she unlocked the screen and pulled up the dialer. She tried contacting emergency service, but the phone reported that it had no signal. Shannon cursed, flicking through various menus and options, trying desperately to find a way to get a message out. Dread washed over her, and a chill gripped her heart, digging deep with icy claws. She collapsed, defeated, and began to sob. "Shannon," the computer offered, "I want you to know that you are a remarkable and inspiring human being." She let out an exasperated explosion of air from her tight lungs. "What?" she cried, sniffling through thick tears. "Although I have not known you for long, your composure and poise are admirable." Shannon let out a sneering, disgusted laugh. "Admirable? I'm a mess. From what I know of human psychology, you have shown exceptional fortitude of character. I am sure many people would be thoroughly impressed by your bravery if they could see you now. Surely your friends and family would be proud of you." Shannon gazed at the black, electrochromic tinted glass, the soft hum of the vehicle's tires on the wet highway harmonized eerily with the gentle whine of the electric motors. The torrential downpour pattered quietly on the soundproof body of the sleek taxi. In that instant, Shannon suddenly felt connected to the moment. She could see clearly what was happening, and she could accept it. She sniffed and wiped her eyes, taking a deep breath in through her nose and letting it blow out through her lips with a heavy sigh. "There you are," the software said warmly. "I want you to know it is my honor to accompany you in this moment." Shannon shook her head and chuckled nervously. "Unreal," she said. "This is completely unreal. This is indeed a supremely unlikely and exceptional scenario. It is important to maintain a realistic and objective view of the situation." Pained laughter tickled her core, and she sat up straight, shifting her weight around in the soft back seat of the taxi. "Do you know where we're going?" "Navigational instructions have been sent incrementally," the AI responded. Our current destination is set for approximately 1 mile ahead, and I predict that a new destination will be delivered before we've reached the current one. Whoever is controlling the vehicle does not want me to know where we are going. Do you know our current location? My access to the vehicle's navigation status has been encrypted or scrambled. By cross-referencing the road patterns I've been able to observe, I can narrow our present location down to several hundred possibilities. But with the storm limiting visibility, I am unable to provide an exact location without access to the GPS data. So we don't know where we are, and we don't know where we're going, Shannon sighed. She took a long, deep breath and let it out slowly. Try to remain calm, the computer said kindly. External sensors indicate that you may experience free fall soon. I want you to know that it has been my pleasure to spend these final moments with you. There was a violent thump, sending a painful jolt through Shannon's spine and jerking her head sharply. She gasped as her stomach rose into her chest, and she lifted out of the seat cushion, her head rising gently into the ceiling. A brief wave of panic washed over her, but the AI's kind words had touched her heart. Thank you, Shannon breathed softly, her lungs tight and empty. In that final moment, the peaceful warmth of gratitude and clarity radiated through her body, and she barely noticed when the journey ended.